Hi everyone, I'm just taking you through the first JavaScript project that I made for day one of 100 days of coding. I decided to make a color changing web page, which is a web page with a button, and when you click on it, it changes the background color. Some of the things that you can learn in this project are variables. It teaches you arrays. It gives you two different maths functions, maths.floor and maths.random. It introduces you to event listeners, and it also introduces you to interacting with HTML objects within the HTML file. It also teaches you a little bit about CSS, so how to use attributes to make text and buttons and objects within the HTML document look prettier. And it teaches you some basic HTML if you didn't already know that. So some of the pros of this project as your first project is that you get to share it with your friends afterwards, which is always pretty cool. It's engaging and interactive, it's colorful, it has user input, which to me is far more interesting than looking at maths, operands, and variables and printing them to a console log. And obviously, as I said, it teaches you HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. One of the cons of this project is that it doesn't go over basic HTML knowledge. So if you don't know anything about HTML, you've never dabbled with HTML before, I would suggest not doing this project and going and doing a static website. Go to w3schools.org and look at the HTML um, guides there and just make your basic first website. So I'll show you the finished product. This is the website in all of its glory. It has a button. When you click the button, it changes the color of the background. So let's have a look at the code. First, we'll have a look at index. So I've basically made a very simple index page. It has a container, and within that container, it has a header, which is there. It has another div called content, which is sort of like a subheader, and then it has a button saying "click me." Um, some of the CSS up here changes the style of the buttons and the fonts, for example, and it also aligns the content. So if you go back to the website, you can see how this block is centered. It's 50% on the left, 50% on the right, 50% from the top and the bottom. The button is rounded, the font has been enlarged, the background of this block is a bluish hue, and this text here is larger than this text. I've also changed the font families to sans serif because I think it looks better. So now we've looked at the CSS. I want to go over to the JavaScript. So in this basic JavaScript, we're looking at setting an array called colors. So we've created a variable called colors, and that variable holds an array. And inside this array, there are 8 strings, which are different colors: blue, red, yellow, white, etc. And then we are creating another variable called button. And this button is assigned to an element within the HTML document called btn, which is short for button. So if you have a look at the index.html, you can see that here our button has an ID of .btn. Sorry, not dot, but just btn. So in order to interact with an object within a HTML document in JavaScript, we have to assign it to a button, which then allows us to do this. We say button dot. This then opens up sort of actions that we can do with that variable. And one of the things that we can do is add an event listener. And an event listener will wait for some user interaction on that object. So we are looking for a click because we're clicking the button. And when we get the click, we want to execute this function. And these curly braces show the function, what we're doing in the function, and this is called a JavaScript block. So within this function, we're saying look in the HTML document and find the body being this section here with that tag. We're then looking at the style attributes of the body, and we want to adjust the background. So we've said the background of body equals, and we want a item from the colors array. Now, here we have a basic formula, and what this is doing is this math.random is outputting a number between 0 and 1. So let's say it's 0.4, and it's timesing it by the length of the array, which is 8. So we can see here, I've already written it for us, that if it's 0.4 times 8, it's returning a value of 2.4 to the other maths function, math.floor. And math.floor rounds a number down to the lowest integer. So if it's 2.4, it's going to round it down to 2. Even if it's 2.9, it's still going to round it down to 2. So color is we're actually setting the background of the body to colors 2, which is going to give us 0, 1, 2, yellow. So we're actually setting the background of body to yellow. That's the whole JavaScript in its entirety. It took me about, I would say, a couple of hours to get it done, to go through how an add event listener works. Also, document.body got me sort of confused because I was looking at other guides which was telling me to say document.get element by ID, but we don't do that for body. Body has its own document.body, which I didn't know about. So you learn, and that's it. Yeah. So this is my video. Thanks for listening, and I hope that your first project goes well.